Hello, everybody, and bonsoir. We are very happy to welcome you. We know you had a day full of presentations, so we really appreciate you taking the time. And for the next 30 minutes, we are going to talk about visualization and spending less money. We are Alexandre Blanchard, senior data engineer at Miracle, and my name is Jessica Schick. I'm working as a data analyst at Miracle. And as said, we are embarking a mission together. We want to visualize more and spend less, and we are going to do that by using Apache Superset. We're going to create a dashboard together and embed the dashboard, while giving you as well a real-life example of Miracle. So imagine, the world is under attack. We are all under attack here, okay? And now, we spend all our money in building the best product ever. So we are building really, really powerful robots, as you can see on the slide. And we do have a superpower, a secret weapon. So what can this be? Any ideas? Don't be shy. No?
It's starting with a D, for example.
Data, yes,
yes, it is data.
Super, thank you. Our superpower is data. So we are collecting data in the production of our robots, plenty of data. But we are also collecting data with our product, the robot themselves. So each day we are generating tremendous amounts of data. We are, for example, following our robots, we see what they see, and we historize this data. So you can imagine a ton of data. So now we need to analyze the data, to learn from it, and share it with the world. And here we arrive to our challenge. How can we quickly visualize and share the data without spending any money as we build the most awesome product already? And our solution is Apache Superset. It's an open software that we are going to use, and the software helps us to explore the data and visualize the data. And actually, it has plenty of advantages. We've been using it since a year, and we think that, for example, it has many nice connections to data sources. We can have, for example, an easy integration. We can have a fast deployment, as you will see in a minute. We can catch our results. That makes it very efficient. And also, we can use it internally and externally to work with our data. So our mission for today is creating at first the source connection. Then we are visualizing the distribution of our produced robots. We show the number of the activity and also give some more details for each robot. And in the end, obviously, we're going to share the results with the world.
Yes. So for this special mission, we created a dashboard. So it's a web app where you see we have all the type of robots we have been deploying. So we have R2D2, we have Wall-E, but we have a lot of them. So several Wall-Es, several Marvins as well, several K9, and several Devox, which is a special kind of robots we developed, which is expert in cybersecurity. So those robots have produced a lot of data, and I've put everything into a database. So I will open Superset. So this is the initial screen of Superset when there is nothing. And my first step will be to add a database connection to query those data. So I will just quickly go here. You can see there is already like 4 different types of database. You have more in the select. And of course, if you install the drivers, you can get more connection also to different type of database. So we just put quickly the number here and the configuration. So it's not very complicated because I made a typo, of course. Up, 1, 2, 3. Password is the same, of course. And we are ready to go. So first step to create a dashboard is to add a dataset. So dataset will be a representation of a table inside the database. So you click here, and everything is easy to discover. Like you have this UI, and very simply is like fetching all the table available, so you can directly see what you have in your database. So here I have my first table called action per robot. So it's a huge table with every action they did, and I can see the column available. I will create a dataset, and then so this is a chart creation, but we will go to it in a minute. And before starting to create more stuff, I will add another dataset, but this time I will create a virtual one. So you see here it's called physical because it's related to a table, but I can also create a dataset based on a SQL query. So I will write a query in the SQL lab. So I choose the same table, same database. I will copy just my query. I have already prepared it here. So basically this query from the action per robot, which is a huge table, I'm doing a group by to reduce the number of rows. So we can see that in the end I only have 200 rows, whereas before I have more than 50,000 inside the table. And I can save it as a virtual dataset. So this way I can be able to use this dataset in the visualization later. Up, we just give it a name, and that's done. I can close it up, and I can see my two datasets. So for the third step of my mission, it's done. I will give you the play to continue with the second challenge, which was display the distribution of produced robots.
Yes. So we go back to our tool, and the first thing that we're gonna do is to prepare our data set. So since we want to display the production of our robots, we're gonna pick the first one. Click on edit. We can see the SQL query from Alex, and we can get an overview of all the columns that are inside the data set. So here we have 4. In case there is a name that we don't want our end users to see, we can go on the details and we can add any label that we want. But here it seems quite good, so we're gonna let it. Then we can go into metrics and build any kind of metrics that we want. That means that we can calculate using SQL and aggregate our columns. So for example, we can say we add an item, and it's
sum of quantity.
Yes, we want to see the
so number of robot produced, for example. Yes, and yeah,
and we name it here as well.
Yeah. So yeah, so basically, like the metrics allow you to add. It's not like a column; it's more like something you will query later in the visualization. But you can type any SQL expression you want, so it's very flexible in the way you can use it. The partializer is not right. Yes, and the first one.
Sorry.
Yeah, the 5. Yes.
Right. Yeah. So that's good. We can then also calculate columns, which basically enables us to work on the appearance of our columns.
But we will do it in the other one.
Yes, we can do it in the other one because the data set is more fitting. So we just hit the save button.
Yes.
And then we can go into the chart production. So I'm going to add a chart here. I'm going to pick the data set.
Yeah, because we wanted to show distribution of produced robots. Yeah.
Exactly. We could, for example, pick a pie chart.
Yeah. So here you have different. So on the left you see all the columns from our dataset, and in the column on the right you have dimension, metrics, and filters, which is the field we will declare which column go in which section of the charts. So basically, dimension metrics is the number we want to show, and dimension will be the thing we want to group by or to filter by. So this way we can see that, for example, by region, that Europe is producing less robots than the other region.
Exactly. And when you want to know more about it, you can click on the 3 little dots over here, and you can view the query, if that's easier for you. You can also copy the query and play with it, for example, in the SQL lab that Alex has shown you before.
Yeah.
So here we already saved. We go back. This one is done.
Yes.
Now we want to see the number of daily activities of robots by region. So we go back, click on the chart. This time we're going to be inside the action one.
And we can add a line chart, for example. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And also, like the same principle, so they keep all the same, the same logic, like having metrics, dimension, and filter. Because it's a line chart, you also have the y-axis, because most of the time is the time. In our case, it will be days, for example. But yeah, depending on the type of charts, you have different fields to fill. Yes, great.
And we have seen before that we can insert the measures on the data set level. This will help us in the end that we can just drag and drop how we want to create a chart. Here we didn't create it before, but what I could do is, for example, just drag the dedicated column inside and change, for example, here the aggregate function, or I can even customize it in SQL. We can also use Jinja templating here in case we want to. So here we create the chart.
Yes.
We can go into customize.
Yes, also we can display the value of the data points if we want.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, margin and...
So if we have some options to customize. For example, we can show the value. And if we are happy with it, we save.
So this is third down. Yeah, it's nice to go.
And now we are giving more details because we actually want to dive a little deeper into the data. And so we are giving the details of the number of activities per robot.
But before, you want to add the image or not?
True.
Yeah, okay. Just go back to dataset and add the image then. Yes, so in action, yes. We can add a calculated column here and just put the image.
Yes, because actually in our columns,
we have a URL with the image here. And in fact, the chart we are about to use is also capable of interpreting HTML. So we can create a new column generating HTML from this URL. So this way we will have we can be able to display the image inside the chart. Yes, Firefox. Yeah. Yeah, just paste and choose. No, you don't just choose. Yeah, data type string. Yes, that's good. So now we can go to the chart creation. Yes. So we want to have a detailed view robot per robot. So we can choose a table because we will have a lot of entries. And as it's a table, we still find the dimensions, the metrics, but here it's just a table. So basically, we can put everything into dimension. It will work nice. We can use the metric if, for example, we want to add an aggregate function like we saw before. Yes. And but your image is not. I think you didn't save. Yeah.
I know here it is.
It is okay. No, not in metrics, in dimension, no. The first one, yes. You can create to show it. Nice.
What we can also do is, for example, adding a search box to make it a little bit more interactive, or allow rearranging of columns for our users. We hit the save button.
And we still need to create a dashboard, yes. So now we have the three charts. We can put them together inside the dashboard. So this way we have a single view, a single entry point where we can see all the three charts at the same time. And it will adding also like filtering. We'll see that in a moment. Yeah, resize it.
Working a bit on the visual aspect. It's really easy to drag and drop.
Yes.
Sometimes you have to be a bit patient. And now you can see we have a dashboard. If we want, we can easily add filters over here. So for example, I could add a region filter.
Yes.
And I am selecting the region. I can also have some more settings over here, or I can say that a filter is only taking place on a special chart.
Yes.
Click on Save. To make it a little bit more interactive, you can use the interface. So as a user, if I would be only interested in seeing data of America, I could just click on America and I would get the output. And now, if I would like to share it with my favorite colleague, I can hit the 3 little dots, click on Share, or I can download it if I want to. That makes it very actionable.
Yeah, like for example, like in download, you can download as Excel or as a CSV or Excel file or even an image. So it's very easy, like if you have these colleagues that want to work with Excel, you can just say to him that just download it on the dashboard, and this way you don't have to do it yourself. So
that's good.
Nice.
But how do we share it with the world?
Yes. So basically, like now we have a dashboard in Superset. So if we want to share it with people, they should have an account on Superset to be able to see it. So it can be an option, but it's not what we want most of the time. A good thing that could be good if we go back to our previous app would be to have an iframe here with the dashboard inside. So to do that, Superset provide a very cool way to do it. So first, you can click in the dashboard configuration and choose to embed it and activate it. Here you can also filter by domain, so this way your security, you can block, you can very specify which domain are allowed to embed the dashboard. So I copy the ID, and I will change the code of my web application to be able to embed the dashboard. So there it is. There is a code of my web application. So it's a simple HTML page. There is a part for the JavaScript code here. And what I did is I imported a library provided by Superset called Embedded SDK. So this is so I have nothing to code really. I just have to use the SDK. And basically, the SDK is requiring first the ID I just copied, the ID of the dashboard, so I can paste it here. It requires where is the superset, so it's on my localhost, so I can put it here. It requires also the HTML element where I will put the iframe. So this is an ID that I have in my page. And the last thing that it needs, it's a token. So basically, Superset is using OAuth to make it secure and to be able, like, the idea is that in the JavaScript code, you don't want to share your password because the JavaScript is available to everybody. So what you need, it's to create a token, and you will pass this token to the JavaScript. To do that, what you need to do is to have a backend that your JavaScript code call. It calls the backend, gets the token, and with the token, it can call Superset. It's what I have done here. So the first step of my JavaScript is calling the backend and then doing the embedding. I will just quickly go into the backend code. And we see in the backend code that it's the place where you put the password. So I authenticate. And with my authentication, I can request a new token for my JavaScript. And I have some configurations. For example, I can allow this token to connect only to one dashboard. I can also add, here it's called RLS, it's called row level security. So basically, when you fill it, it will add where clause to every request made with this token. So basically, it's useful if you have multiple clients sharing the same data in the same table. You can filter by a column, for example. I just need the ID of the dashboard. So here's 48. So I will replace with 48 here. 48, yes, and I have a typo. Okay. So now that everything is up to date, normally I will be able to see my dashboard loading inside my page. So there it is. Demo worked. So basically, we did that also. So our mission is complete. Congrats. Yes. Some other stuff we didn't cover in this demo. So there is a lot of other features like Jinja templating. We talk a bit about it, like a way of customizing your SQL request. You can also add tagging on the asset. There is, of course, more chart types. That's the only 3 we saw. You can also plug SSO into Superset. We didn't do it, but if you have, like, I don't know, Google or something, you can plug it. There is as it's an open source product, there is a lot of stuff done by the community to help the work of people. A good feature also is reports. Like you can schedule. There is a little scheduler inside Superset, so you can schedule a dashboard to run every week, for example, and get an email. A good thing also is that there is a lot of APIs behind Superset. So basically, a lot of things you do in the UI, you can also do it in the by API. A good example of that is like something I will show just later. It's around source control. So you can get your dashboard as a code. So this way, you can also put it in a Git repository, for example. So because at Miracle, so we wanted to show you Superset because at Miracle we have been using it for a year in production. Our use case is quite simple. In fact, like we are providing a SaaS solution to our clients. So our clients are pushing a lot of data inside our database, and we wanted a way to display this data to the client. In fact, it's their data, so they should be able to see it. And so with Superset, we created a dashboard, and we are embedding it in our app. So this way, our clients have a direct access to their data. And so on technical side, like we are serving more than 1,500 users with a single instance of Superset. So it's well-code software in the end, so it's quite efficient. And we also streamline the process in order to be able to allow like product team to create the dashboard themselves, not to go to the data team to do it. And to be able to do it, we put in place some, how to call it, some process. I will just detail quite simple process, but quite efficient. So like we have a Superset dedicated to the dashboard creation when people can create their own dashboard. When it's good, we can push it to a staging environment or a pre-prod environment to test it and to verify that everything is good. And when it's ready, we can push it to production where the client will actually see it. And you can go one step further with the API I talked about before. You can use the API to basically download your dashboard as code, save it in a Git repository, and here you get all the benefits from source control. So basically, you can create a PR, you can on merge, you can deploy it to the pre-prod, and when you're satisfied with it, you can tag it and deploy to production. So this way, you have dashboard as code, they are versionized, and so it's the world, everything is happy, everybody is happy. So yeah, so thank you very much. So basically, if you want to remember some stuff, Apache Superset is an open source software ready for production. As you saw, it's very easy and very fast to create dashboards and embed them. And the variety of features and everything we show make it very, very customizable. So it's your turn to start the dashboard with Superset. Thank you very much. And we have some time for questions if you want, or for beers.
Do you have any comparison to Metabase, for example?
We did use Metabase internally also. We choose the Superset because in production we are using Databricks as a data source, and there was some problem with Metabase for the connection. So it's not the only reason we did the switch, but it was one of the reasons. I think Metabase is more around exploration. I'm not sure, but yeah, Metabase also could be a good. It's also an alternative to Superset. Yeah, also open source. So yeah.
Yes. So very quickly, maybe based on the use cases, like versus industrial solutions like Power BI, Tableau.
Yeah.
I mean, price is obvious,
yes.
But on the use case, like where would you use Power BI, for instance?
So I think the big advantage for Superset is that you don't necessarily need so much background knowledge when you create dashboards. So we have seen together that you can set up your data set very properly. After you did that once, everyone can just drag and drop their charts and you are kind of safe to use, whereby I feel Tableau, for example, or Power BI gives you more options. So maybe there's also more room for errors if you open it to more people. I think it's faster to use, but it is less customizable. So for example, We have quickly seen filters, and one feedback that we get quite often is there is a date filter or period filter, and we cannot really customize it. It's just, it is what it is. We take it, we are happy about it, but we know in other solutions you have this notion of customizability that is not as extensive in Superset.
And data governance, like Tableau, for example, they have like built-in features, like basically it's through UX, and you can like regulate all the like actions the user can do with like all the dashboards you manage. Here you were presenting like the token.
Yes.
So is it the only way to like do the data governance?
Yeah, I think on this topic now you have also like when you are a user of Superset, there is the notion of roles and the notion of users, so you can attach role to users, and maybe you can segregate your users by a role, and this will have only access to those data sets. My guess will be that the governance is not as powerful as the one in Tableau, but yeah.
Last, super quick, can I?
Yeah,
Sure.
Yes, if you were migrating to Superset from another solution, how did you estimate the cost of migration versus the cost value from Superset?
That's a good question. I mean, but in fact, the cost is a good question, because I heard that for Tableau, like the license can be very expensive, and if you plan to embed it also in the website when you expected a lot of users, I'm pretty sure it will make sense. Well, of course, it depends what you have put in your Tableau. Like maybe if you have the governance stuff, everything can take some time, but quick calculation I think the license is so expensive that make it worth it, I think. I don't know. But of course, also you don't get the support side. I'm not a big user of Tableau, but you don't get the support, of course, of enterprise products. So it's a different story. Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
And what about the resources to make it run? Because, for example, I know Tableau is absolute hell to make it run. You have 10 to 15 background programs, and you need nodes with 30 gigabytes of RAM.
Yeah.
What about Superset?
So basically, Superset, it's just a web app. So you have to deploy it somewhere in your infrastructure. And around the size of the cluster, I think it's quite small. I think we are using like basic VMs to host it. And I show like with the main we have only one production instance serving all the 1,000 users, because when you deploy Superset, you also deploy a cache, a Redis cache. So part of the requests are passing through the cache. In fact, if you want more detail about how it's made underneath, Superset was started by the original creator of Airflow. So it's all code in Python and using Celery workers to orchestrate and to manage the data load. I don't know if it's some elements to your question.
Thank you.
Because I think you can also like add more workers. Like if, with a Celery, you can have a fleet of workers. So start more workers if you are under pressure. We didn't get into that, so I don't know. Could be.
Hello, I've got a question.
Yes.
What about the maximum size of data set you can work on for slice, drill down, things like that?
You mean in size of column or inside or
when you visualize it?
Yes.
I mean, there is. I mean, either you allowed everything in the browser, or you got to do pagination, things like that.
Yes.
So, for the amount of data that you can work on, what was the limits you found with your usages?
By us, we didn't find any
Not yet.
limits, but in most of the time, the use cases where you add a visualization will be on aggregated data.
Okay.
So most of the time, the data you are visualizing is already reduced in size. After us, we never came into any problem. I think yes. Samuel was having some trouble. I think with a query. Yeah, sometimes you have to like Jessica showed, like you have to open the chart and display the query and maybe debug the query to find a potential performance problem. So it will be more like SQL query debugging, like classic SQL debugging.
Yes, and in fact, we are also using the SQL lab quite often. So every time we want to, for example, aggregate a table, we are first testing in SQL lab, see how everything looks like, integrate this virtual table then in our dashboard, and then after create the physical table.
Yeah.
So that's quite helpful.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, I have one question.
Okay.
Do you monitor your instance, like
Yes.
I don't know, memory
Yeah,
usage and so on?
Yeah, after once it's deployed on the cluster, it's on a Kubernetes cluster, so we get all the metrics from the memory, CPU, everything. So yeah.
Okay. And how come Europe is producing this few amount of robots?
It's a good question.
Because of regulation. Now, also, there is some private companies that sell Superset, managed Superset. So if you don't want to host it, you can also pay for a SaaS version of Superset.
I think we are running out of time here.
Okay.
Thank you all for coming. We will be here for a beer.
I still have one question, sorry. Thank you very much for this presentation. Just one last question. You mentioned you were running in production.
Yes.
How does it behave when you're querying a big database, for instance? Is there any optimization? You mentioned the cache earlier.
Yeah, the cache is a good one because basically behind we are using our data platform. So basically we are calling stuff like BigQuery or Redshift. And so, of course, the query can be costly because, like, for example, on BigQuery. So the cache help a lot because, like, everything Superset does, he put it in the cache. So maybe if a user is, most of the time, a user is displaying the dashboard or is coming back through pages. So having the cache is a good situation because he can, you don't have to query every time the database. And now the only problem we encounter is like because we have clients in Australia, for example, and they were querying the superset in Europe, so there was a big latency. So the only thing we did is putting a dataset close to them in Australia, but the superset was still querying the data in Europe. But it was working because in fact, when you are running a SQL query that can take several seconds, if you add the latency across the continent, it's not so much. So it's a good compromise. Thank you.
Thank you.